So you're essentially, your contract is not renewed at DePaul. You don't get tenure. It amounts essentially
I was denied tenure.
Denied tenure.
And then we had an out-of-court settlement. My lawyer, Lynn Berner-Bay, she said, look, Norm, if it went to court, you'll win. She said, I have no doubt about that. But tenure cases take a long time. It can take 4 or 5 or 6 years. And you're the person who knows your case the most, so you're going to have to be writing up the briefs, the facts, and everything. It'll consume 6 years of your life. The other choice is just get an out-of-court settlement and move on in your life.
So in terms of moving on, you have not now, as of today, been able to get a job anywhere outside of, you're teaching once a week now, once a month for 1 week in Turkey. Right. Now you are one of the more foremost academics. You have, in terms of studying Israeli issues, Israeli-Palestine issues, in terms of your level of knowledge and so on, whether people agree or disagree with you, this is McCarthyite House American activities level of isolation, that you can't get a job in an institution here?
I would say the picture is not quite like that. Let me just explain it as I see it. First of all, it's not only I couldn't get a job in academia, I couldn't get any job, period. I couldn't get a job in a post office. I mean, you might think that's an exaggeration, but I can assure you it's not. The problem was, for some people, it was for ideological purposes. But for a lot of people, they're just administrators. You know nowadays, because you administer your program. A person walks in the room, they ask you, what's your name? You say, my name is Norman Finkelstein. The person is sitting down, and immediately they're going like this. As you're talking to them, how do you spell your name? And then they're Googling you. And then it comes up the Google. And then you get Norman Finkelstein, Holocaust denier, 40,000 websites. So the administrator, it's not the politics. Do you want somebody who has a reputation for being a Holocaust denier?
But there are people that run departments that know better.
No, they do know better, but that's my whole point. You're an administrator. The question is, when people start to complain, when they start having to endure the ordeal that DePaul endured. I endured an ordeal at DePaul, but it wasn't a pretty picture for them either. This is a third-tier university. It's like Main Street in Hooterville being hit by a tsunami. They didn't know what the hell is going on now. And so any administrator, they look after their institution. That's their job. So I'll give you an example, not the rarefied ivory tower. I applied to teach as a volunteer at a charter school in East Harlem. No. Why? Because she knows some kid, what does a kid do when he comes home first day of class? Googles the teacher's name. Holocaust denier. Mommy, come here, look at my teacher. Look, he's all over the web. 1 million websites. The parent's eyes like this. Oh my God, my son is being taught by a Holocaust denier. Starts complaining to the principal. Does any principal want to have to deal with that? You know,
of course what you're saying is true.
It's not just ideological animus, it's also just being an administrator and how the system functions.
Yeah, I think you're being, I mean, it's realistic, but I also think you're being a little forgiving in the sense that there's some department heads at some universities, and it's kind of cowardice that they don't take a...
There's cowardice, but you have to be inside academia to understand its operations, because from the outside and the inside have very little correlation with each other. I'll give you an example. I live in New York, okay? Columbia University, NYU, big institutions. Their faculties, most of their faculties are actually further left than me on these issues. Now I ask you a question. It's been 7 years. 7 years.
Since the
Columbia has a Center for Palestine Studies, the first one in the United States, run by a very prominent professor, okay, director of it. I don't know if he's officially director, but okay. NYU has the Kevorkian Center. And all these big shot leftist, pro-Palestine, one-staters are on the faculty. Now I ask you a question. In the 7 years, it's an hour from my house, an hour, even less. Has any of them ever invited me to give, not to teach for a semester, to give a lecture? 7 years, nothing. I have a friend, I love her. I'll be honest with you, at Harvard, okay, I won't tell you her name. And she's in one of these programs. She sends me every week the list of speakers they have. Now finally, my innards begin to writhe. I said, has it ever occurred to you to invite me? Has it ever occurred to you? Because academics, it's you wash my hand, I wash, one hand washes the other, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. I have nothing to offer. I can't get you a good book review. I can't get you invited to a conference. I have nothing to offer you, I'm nothing. I can't, even a blurb from me kills a book. I'm serious. So they didn't do anything for me. I don't care about the other side. Okay, that's their cause. That's what you expect. I'm talking about my side. Nothing.
Why?
Because I have nothing to offer them.
They invite people to speak that can't help them with this and that.
No, that's not really
Come on,
true.
I get invited to speak.
Okay, you know what, Paul? You have a point. A lot of people resented me even at the pool because they felt I was acting like a prima donna. I didn't want to play by the rules, but I still wanted to get tenure. Like you said, I knew what was going to happen, and I'm still speaking my mind, saying I support Hezbollah, saying with this, that, and the other. And, well, if he's going to carry on like that, we had to jump through the hoops. We had to sell our souls. I mean, how do you get a job like that? How do you get a job like that at Harvard or at NYU or at Columbia and you call yourself a leftist? Believe me, you cut a lot of corners. You don't get a job otherwise. And there was this feeling towards me that he wants to have all the benefits of an academic without paying the price.
Which means staying within certain limits.
Yeah, staying within certain limits, carrying on in a certain way, and I didn't, And that's why I say there's an aspect of me which is, we can call it not hypocritical, but contradictory, that I want to be able to say and think as I do, but I then pity myself when the moment of truth comes and I have to pay the consequences. So there is a resentment towards me. And I'll tell you another thing, and I'm not afraid to say, I think I'm better than a lot of them. I know more. I work hard. They're going to wine and cheese conferences, wine and cheese parties, ridiculous conferences. They're always plotting conspiracies about this and that, because that's academic life. It's so petty, What did I do? My time wasn't squandered on that. I just sat home and worked. I worked very hard, and I'm not going to pretend to otherwise. I worked very hard.